In this video, we will see the next part of the microprocessor, and that is the rules of the macro. There are different rules associated with macro while using the macro programming, and we will list out them one by one and try to use them while solving the microprocessor related program. So what is first? Every macro name will be preceded with the macro statement in the macro definition. While you are writing macro definition, it will always start with the macro keyword. Second is means rather than I am giving you the key points of writing the macro programming. First is nothing but the start of the macro definition will always with the keyword macro. Next is every macro definition ends with the macro end statements. Third is nothing but every formal argument precedes with the ampersand sign. We have seen that for assigning or for declaring any formal parameters, you have to use ampersand sign before that. How it is, for example, you are defining the function add, then you have to write the ampersand before the parameter. But when after the macro end, when you are reading that a, then you have to pass another name. And when you call that function, you have to simply write x, not ampersand here. So at the time of a formal definition, the formal parameters should be preceded with the ampersand sign. Every label parameter starts with ampersand L. When you have to write any label parameter, it will start with the ampersand L. Next is every keyword parameter will start with what is the rule for keyword parameters? That is ampersand kw, or you can write ampersand operand. Okay. So these are the some rules related to the macro we are listing. Now we will repeat it again. That is every macro should start with the name macro, should end with the name macro end. You have to write all these names in a capital letters as it is. Then every formal parameter will start with the ampersand sign in the definition. Then every local parameter will start with the ampersand L. Then every keyword parameter will start with either ampersand keyword or ampersand operand variable. Then what is the next? A variable declared with LCL is a local parameters and GBL are the global parameters, and it should precede with again signs, that is the ampersand. Means local is the LCL and global is nothing but the global parameters, and they should always start with the ampersand sign. Next is repeat, then set, then GBL. You can write ECL or LCL for the local parameters, then AGO and on AIF. These statements only use within the macro definition. Means what is their place? Their place is in the macro definition only. Okay. Means while time of a calling macro, there is no any place for the these keywords or these procedures. Next is the all macros are first defined and then used. Means you have to firstly define the macro and then use the macro. Okay. If you not perform the definition first, then there will be the occurrence of a forward reference problem. To avoid this, first of all, we have to write the definition, then use that definition. Next rule is any macro can call another macro, but call macro should define before the calling macro. Means for example, A is the macro and that after A having the definition. After that B is the macro and which is calling A into its definition. This is allowed because A has completed its definition before its calling. But when procedure happens like you are writing A, only declaring, not defining, writing B and then calling A, but A has not finished its definition. So in such a cases, the call is not allowed. You have to define the called macro before the caller macro. Next rule is macro can be defined inside of other macro. Means you can call one macro in another macro. Means call macro within another macro, and at the same time you can define one macro within another macro. Okay, so these are the different rules associated while designing the macro programming. So as these are the rules mentioned for the macro programming, but there is one restriction, and that is nothing but these rules can be changed from one microprocessor to other microprocessor. How it can happen? I will give you one example. Like when you are using the 32-bit processor and while you are using a 64-bit processor, all the systems or all the notations were going to be changed because the both the systems having the different mechanism of representing its values or its data. So it can happen. So macro processor should provide some documentation while telling the rules and regulation of the macro processor, which will be helpful for programmer while writing the program. We will see the next part of the macro processor, and that is nothing but the macro expansion. What is the next part? That is the macro expansion. Okay, what is it? There are two types of the expansions. First is the lexical expansion and second is the semantic expansion. Before that, we will again take a short overview of the macro processor. What is a macro processor? It is a software which convert source code with macro into source code without macro, so that it expands the main program. It can try to eliminate the macro while expanding, means it will replace the actual definitions of the different macro statements and try to convert it into source code without the macro definition. So what is the lexical expansion? While studying the detailed architecture of an internal structure of a machine, there was some time before your this syllabus. In the previous year student syllabus, there is lexical programming or Pascal programming, Python programming was there, and so the parser having the lex terms. So what is the lexical expansion? It is nothing but replacement of a character string with another character string during program generation. Replacement of character string with another character string during the program execution is nothing but the lexical expansion. What is a lex? For example, I am Ram. Okay, I having the specific meaning, am having the specific meaning, and Ram having the specific meaning. So these are become the uh, tokens of that programming languages, and they are having any specific meaning in the parser. So the replacement of this character with the another character will happen, and it is known as a lexical expansion. All formal parameters of the macro definition are replaced with actual parameters defined in the macro call. For example, add ampersand a. Then, at the time of a calling, you are writing add x. This a is replaced with the x, and it is known as the lexical expansion. Second is nothing but the semantic expansion. Semantics is nothing but the actual meaning of the any variable, token, keyword, or different mechanisms. So, what is the semantic expansion? Okay, generation of a type-specific instructions for manipulation of a byte and word operands. It is known as a semantic expansion. It is characterized by the fact that different uses of macro can lead to codes which differ in another number, sequence, and output of instructions, and it is nothing but the semantic expansion. Means, for example, I am dash dash. Now, what is the I? Expand is meaning while time of a call. Then expand the meaning of am and lots of such thing. It is known as a semantic. Semantics is nothing but the rules associated with that variables, parameters, or keywords, whatever that are a part of a program. So this is all about the different basic types of the microprocessor, different parts of the microprocessor, and we have completed here the different basic mechanisms of the microprocessor successfully. I hope all you have understood it very clearly. In the next videos, we will cover the next mechanism of the systems program. Thank you so much.